Yo guys, and welcome to this new video. Here I present a possible connection between Kozuki Hiyori and the ancient weapon we know less about in One Piece, Uranus. Of course, since it looks like Hiyori is currently hiding herself behind the name of Komurasaki and the role of courtesan, everything that I'm going to say proceeds from the fact Kyoshiro actually didn't kill Komurasaki, maybe injuring her knowing that her wound could be healed somehow. And if we assume that, basing on Kyoshiro's behavior and attitude, and on his interaction with the courtesan herself, I think the theory really makes sense. But before seeing it in detail, I'll try to publish a new video every day, so make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to know exactly when I upload something new. Alright, with that said, let's jump straight into it. I'd like to start from an information that was not so evident but very important in my opinion, and that Orochi gave us indirectly during the banquet. Indeed, it looks like the Shogun doesn't know about Kozuki Hiyori's existence, and I can say that quite confidently because while he mentioned Momonosuke's body and the fact it was never found, supporting with it his fear of the prophecy of the Kozuki clan in general, he didn't mention at all Oden's daughter's one, which is very strange because a few chapters before Momonosuke himself said his sister was never found dead. But if so, why a person like Orochi, that is so incredibly scared about the possible return of the Kozuki clan, didn't mention at all this threat? We cannot even justify this attitude by saying that maybe he knew she is Komurasaki and for this reason he didn't need to mention her because she is kind of under his control. And this is because for how overwhelming seems to be the fear he proves for the clan he destroyed, if he really knew the courtesan is Oden's daughter, he would have never let her live, not to mention trying to marry her, so we can be pretty sure he doesn't know about her true identity. But then the only possible explanation for him not mentioning Kozuki's second heir is that he doesn't know she exists. But this makes everything even stranger, because he is now the Shogun and before he was probably a daimyo, so the same rank as Oden. So it's difficult to think that with this influence he couldn't acquire the information Oden and Toki had a daughter. And the only way to explain how the Shogun, who was essentially the king of Wano Kuni, couldn't acquire this kind of information so relevant to him is that this same information was kept a secret from the entire country, only known by those strictly related to the Kozuki clan. This could also explain why Toki could afford to not send her daughter to the future together with Momonosuke. And later we will also try to explain why she thought this was the better solution. But following the flow of this theory, what I want to understand first is why her existence was hidden. Analyzing what we know about Oden's life, we discovered that his daughter was born either immediately before he left the country or while he was sailing with Whitebeard or Roger. And this is because the Roger pirates were disbanded immediately after they reached the Raftel 25 years ago, which is exactly 1 year after Hiyori was born, since she is now 26 years old, as Momonosuke confirmed. And since Oden traveled first on the Moby Dick, then on the Oro Jackson, and in this second phase he also visited the Paradise, because we know from Ignorashi and Nekomamushi that they visited both Fishman Island and Skypiea, we can understand that he traveled quite a while. And to me all this makes very likely that he was on the seas at the time his daughter was born. Now in Zoo we also discovered that Momonosuke met Roger himself. This sounded like a lie before, but now that we know he jumped 20 years ahead, it can be considered a true information. So he met Roger, but the way in which Inuarashi and Nekomamushi describe Oden's journey gives the impression that he passed from Whitebeard to Roger far from Wano, as if he left the land of samurai alone, or maybe already with the new gate, to pass only later while sailing the seas on to the Oro Jackson. By the way, it would be very interesting if this happened during a Davy Back fight between the Roger Pirates and the Whitebeard Pirates. But then, the meeting between Momonosuke and Roger could have only happened in occasion of his father's return. And considering Roger's life, this happened immediately after they reached Raftel and disbanded the crew, which makes sense because Roger probably accompanied himself, every single member of his crew, to the place they belonged. Before, of course, starting the last part of his life with Rouge in Batteria. Now, the fact that Toki decided to maintain Hiyori's existence as a secret in this first year of her life before Oden returned can be understood in many different ways. She was a very little girl after all, and Oden, since he became a criminal by leaving the country, could have had many enemies, and moreover, as we know, according to Kinemon, Toki was said to come from a long ago, and this long ago could even be 800 years ago, so she could have had reasons associated with those that made Oden maintain the existence of his daughter as secret even after he returned. Indeed, there was a great difference between the daimyo Kuri that left the country and the Roger Pirate that came back, since as every One Piece fan knows very well, the crew of the Pirate King was the only one in centuries not only to reach Raftel but also to discover the secrets of the Void Century. And Kinemon confirmed that Oden was one of those who discovered that mysterious history. And considering how the Kozuki clan has a strong connection with that erased past, since they were those who allowed it to be transmitted in the first place, it's very likely Oden discovered something about his own family. Now, if we go back again to Zu, there we had some hints that maybe the importance of the Kozuki for what concerns the Void Century could go beyond just writing and reading the poneglyphs. Indeed, Momonosuke's power of giving orders and thus controlling Zunisha looked very similar to another ability incredibly important for the Void Century, the one possessed now by Shirahoshi and originally possessed by the mermaid princess called Poseidon, the Ancient Weapon Poseidon. And so this means that Momonosuke has a power very similar to the power of an ancient weapon. Now, about the Ancient Weapon, and in particular the two we know better, Poseidon herself and Pluton, there is something weird, you could say, that accommodates them. And it is that both are related to princesses. In Poseidon's case this is obvious, but for what concerns Pluton, we also have a princess strictly connected to it. One of the many Luffy met during his journey, and probably the most important one among them. Vivi. Indeed, Vivi is the heir of Alabasta's royal family, and we know that within that family it was passed from generation to generation the burden of protecting and hide the poneglyphs that contained the location of Pluton itself, which is supposed to be hidden in Alabasta as well. Moreover, during the reverie, Im not only put Vivi's picture together with those of 2D clan members, maybe the most important ones in this era, that are Luffy and Teach, and Shiroshi's one, but he also stared thoughtfully at Vivi's one for a while. So Vivi could be related to the ancient history much deeper than what it seemed. And so we have a mermaid princess that is Poseidon, a desert princess related to Pluton, and we're missing a princess related to Uranus. But we said that Momonosuke has a power very similar to Poseidon's one, so a power similar to the one of an ancient weapon, and the family he belongs to is one of the main elements of the Void Century. Moreover, Otsuru, that is Kinemon's wife, confirmed that the Kozuki family ruled Wano for a long time, which means they were, in practice, the royal family of that country. So at this point, it's easy to make the connection: ancient weapons, princesses, Uranus the missing one, Momonosuke's power, Kozuki family, Kozuki Hiyori. arriving to the conclusion that there is a high chance Oden's daughter is connected somehow to Uranus, which is something of course that Oden himself discovered when he discovered everything about the Void Century. So when he came back in Wano with Roger, as we said before, he knew the importance his daughter had for what are the remains of the will of the Ancient Kingdom. And so to protect both her as his daughter and her power, because we should imagine it is as powerful as Poseidon and Pluton and so strong enough to destroy the world potentially, Oden decided to maintain her existence, or at least her nature of his daughter, a secret. But then why Toki, that mysterious person that it seems had her own knowledge about the Void Century, didn't send her daughter to the future and to maintain her more protected with Momonosuke and the other scabbards? Well, I think that in a context where Hiyori's inexistence, you could say, already protected her enough, her mother decided it was better to let her grow, because in this way, when Momonosuke and the scabbards would have reappeared, she would have been a grown woman with possibly the ability to control her power related to Uranus. This would have allowed the revenge of Kinemon and Co. to have an ancient weapon on their side, and this can also explain why Toki, while saying her prophecy, was so confident that the 9 samurai she mentioned would have succeeded even against Orochi and Kaido together. Indeed, she knew they would have on their side the power of one of the greatest weapons of human history. So she left her with Denjiro, that is the only one of the 3 strongest scabbards who was present at the moment the others were sent in the future, and later probably Hiyori's story involved Kyoshiro, whose name sounds kind of similar to Denjiro, I don't know if this is a coincidence, and she became a courtesan Komurasaki, and we are now at the point where her nature related with Uranus will become really important. To conclude, I want to say that I personally consider this theory very solid, and this is because we are at a point of the manga where it's about time to reveal something about Uranus. And the fact Wano is so relevant not only for this versus Yonko arc, but also because it is the One Piece version of Japan, and also is that particular arc Oda imagined at the beginning together with the end of the story, we should imagine it would be very important for the development of the plot, which suits with the relevance it clearly has for the Void Century. So what do you think about this theory? Make sure to let me know in the comments below, and if you enjoy it, don't forget to leave a like. Make sure to also subscribe to know when I upload something new, and until next time, Jane!